If somebody pulls something and Kavos has seen it and he thinks, I want to pull them up on that, or I'm going to pull them up on that, it doesn't matter what your previous relationship with him is. There is none of that loyalty. He's very cutthroat, and he is confrontational.
Do you think YouTube needs somebody like him?
That's a really good question.
We're joined by a talent manager, some would say, director of colossal influence.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's Kristian Sturt.
Thank you.
You manage you've got a whole roster now at your company, Colossal Influence. Kavos being one of them.
Yes.
So he's an interesting character, especially in the space. Never had him in this space, but we'll be open to that idea, wouldn't we?
Yeah,
I think he'd do it.
Yeah, do you think? Yeah,
he is potentially, out of all the time that I've worked on YouTube, one of the hardest working YouTubers.
Right.
His scripting and he self-edits as well. He puts hours and hours and hours into each script that he writes.
Right.
He meticulously checks it and he goes over it. His work ethic is sort of unparalleled to a lot of people.
I think with the array of talent that you mentioned, the one that our audience will probably be most interested in is the one we've alluded to and mentioned a few times already, Kavos. Interesting character.
Yeah.
Splits opinion quite a lot online.
Yeah.
More so in the negative than the good. How did you come to chat to Kavos? And what was it about him that made you go, yeah, he's good enough for me?
We were talking about fame.
Right.
Unsurprisingly, as we'll get to, I probably spoke to 200-300 people about fame. And which was actually part of my downfall. But we kept on speaking, and he was talking about, well, we actually pitched him to fight you, Will, or Alex.
Right.
Alex was never really an option because he's too small, and he's quite tall, Kavos, so he's about your size.
So what Kristian's saying there, Alex, is that you're an absolute fucking pussy.
I didn't say that. although
that's the vibe I got.
You'll be fighting him next year, won't you? He WhatsApped me, I think it was October time, something like that, and asked me if I'd consider fighting Kavos in the octagon is what they call it. No from me.
Yeah.
What made you say no?
It was a combination of things, right? So it was mainly that I'm a fun pussy.
Good
Number
start,
two, I've got metal plates in my jaw.
Yeah, probably not the safest thing to do.
Number three, if I lost to Kavos,
You'd never hear the end
I'm
of
not
it.
sure I'd ever live it down.
Yeah.
I certainly don't know if I'll have a place on YouTube anymore. And number four, because I'd heard on the grapevine that the event might not be great. So you offered me the fight with Kavos, and obviously Willany was up for it. Was Willany up for it or not?
No, he said that if he bleeds, he passes out, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
So, Kavos just punched himself in the face a couple of times and win by knockout. But yeah, we couldn't get anyone to fight with him. Kavos only really wanted to fight a select few people that he'd had previous, not issues with. Certainly you were bottom of the list and Alex was top of it.
Right.
And Will was somewhere in the middle.
He wanted to go into that with anger then,
Yeah.
rather than just an event.
Well, you do need to fight somebody that you have a genuine... you don't need to hate them, but you do need to have a reason to want to punch someone in the head. You just spoke very highly of his work ethic. What do you think of the content? I, like any creator, don't agree with everything he says. So there will always be bits that I don't agree with what he says. But that's part and parcel of working with anybody. They're always going to have content out there that's controversial. The one thing I will say about Kavos is that he has done a plethora of research on what he's doing. So what he's presenting, he believes in. Now, I think the divide has come that he's willing to hit people who are in the commentary community that stray away from going for others in the commentary community because things can get uncomfortable. So if somebody pulls something and Kavos has seen it and he thinks, I want to pull them up on that, or I'm going to pull them up on that, it doesn't matter what your previous relationship with him is. There is none of that loyalty. By his own admission, he has no friends in the YouTube scene. He has his friends and then he has YouTube. So when Deji did some stuff, he had praised Deji in a video before, and then he made an expose on him. There was no loyalty to him there. And I think
that sort of cutthroat nature is why a lot of people don't agree with him. Some say it's the most honest thing that you can do. If someone does something, then pull them up on it. But also, I think that a lot of the commentary community, and I wouldn't put you in it, a lot of the commentary community have moved away from going after the individual and are now starting to do stuff like 90 Day Fiancé, where they critique people that they're never going to meet who are on TV in a different world to them, and it's got quite safe. I think Kavos, who's still quite young, still 22, is still developing the content that other people were creating before.
Yeah.
And is enjoying it, but not in like a cynical. He's never been I've seen this screw up, I'm going to target it. He needs to have a basis for a video.
But I think you're bang on there, and a lot of things that you said about him, you could 100% relate to me 2-3 years ago, maybe a bit longer, 3-4 years ago, whatever. So I'm not going to sit here on a pedestal and go, "Oh, Kavos is the big bad wolf. Let's point fingers at him." I disagree with a lot of stuff he says, and based on that, I have a negative opinion of him. I'm pretty sure if I met him, it'd be fine. Yeah. And so I'm not here to slag him out. This isn't a cancel Kavos podcast. The only things that I've seen from him where he's mentioned me negatively is like, he's sucking True Geordie's ass like the rest of them. It's really confusing because when he does a video about Ellen or does a video even about True Geordie, now I'm good mates with Brian, of course I am, but I think a lot of the things he said in that video, I was like, yeah, fair enough. I can't argue with it. I pride myself on being quite an honest creator, but then why does he need the little backhanded comments just to kind of like? I feel like he's doing what I did years ago, and I learned and I grew from it. And I'm not trying to be patronising to him at all. I know he's a lot younger, and maybe he'll go on a similar thing to me. I used to just go like, right, I'm going to be the anti-YouTuber. Yeah. That guy's a cunt, that guy's a cunt, that guy's a cunt. And it doesn't really get you anywhere when you have such good points and you have the ability, like he does, to easily deconstruct YouTubers in a way that I can do as well. And then I learned to focus my energy on the ones that actually truly need to be deconstructed. Whereas I think he's in that 2016 Jackmate phase of he's a cunt. I'll call everyone a cunt, and then anyone who doesn't like YouTube will come to me, and I'll get that pool of people. So why does he like off the cuff, just like insult randomers that don't seem to have done much?
I think a lot of it has a backstory. I think more than you think has a backstory. A lot of people have taken an issue with him. A lot of people have DM'd him. There is certainly an element of jumping on a trend, but I think that's YouTube. And I think the backhanders are probably a bit more satirical than if you're caught up in it and you're not seeing the reasoning behind it. It's not funny because you're part of it. But if you're, as Ricky Gervais says, and we all love Ricky Gervais, you don't pander to the 200 people in the room. You to the greater audience. And I think I've said that to you before as well, actually. And he's very much got that anti-YouTuber mentality while still, being a YouTuber. And there is definitely a line there where you have to play fast and loose with some of the rules. And oftentimes he will jump that line a little bit. But I never think he's particularly malicious in the things that he says. As I say, he believes the things that he says. And that's him is the most important thing, definitely.
Do you see any similarities between his content and mine?
Not anymore, but definitely in previous years.
Yeah.
I think a lot of commentary YouTubers have I wouldn't call you a commentary YouTuber anymore for a start, but certainly people like Alex has definitely strayed away from his original. You would target one person and then go for them, and now it's very much sort of PG scale back version. It's like as I say, you're never going to meet this person, so there's going to be no real world repercussions. Whereas Kavos doesn't have that. He hasn't got to that point, or he doesn't plan on getting to that point. He's very cutthroat, and he is confrontational, and that's what the content he creates.
As you look after, you obviously look after him and his channel. How brandable is he? How marketable? Can you sell ads on him?
You can. It is tough. You certainly have to find the right demographics. He has quite a big US audience, which means that we have to pitch to American brands quite often. But he is doing work with a bunch of brands at the moment. I've got him a string. They sort of all came in at one. and he's enjoying it, and that content suits that brand, but he's not as easy to sell, as it were, as a beauty influencer who's PG, who just talks about makeup.
Yeah.
But there is a very big fan base for Kavos.
Wow.
Very big.
Do you think YouTube needs somebody like him?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I do. Well, there's clearly a space for him because he's found it. I do think there's obviously like a police type of thing with him where is he policing people based on his own morality?
I don't know how Kavos has enough passion to call out everybody on each individual thing. It's like, he might think Ellen DeGeneres is a bitch. Then by all means do a video, do an expose video. But then the next week he's cussing up Alex for something he said on a podcast. Then it's Brian for a text message, and it's all these different people, and that drained the life out of me having to do that. And I'm just now questioning the motive behind why he's doing it, because I know for a fact that I had ill intentions when I did do them things.
He genuinely cares.
What does he care for, though?
I think, yeah, but that's like saying, why do people like YouTube drama? There is an audience for it. It exists. People care about what's happening in their lives, and it dates back, years of celebrities, and YouTubers are certainly the new celebrity for me anyway.
Yeah.
And that's always had an audience, and behind that audience, you have to have the person that's producing the news. Now, I can't. Kavos and Keemstar have a strained relationship, verging towards the positive. I don't like Keemstar. I think he displays news as his opinion. He passes it off, and then he pushes his narrative.
Yeah.
I think Kavos has found the balance very nicely between fact. Here's my opinion. And he will differentiate between the two. And I think that's probably where the difference lies between the two of them.
Yeah.
I certainly think Keemstar will play out for drama. We know, we've all seen his tweets. He plays into the drama. But yeah, I think, and I certainly, definitely, if I disagree with what Kavos said to a huge extent, I would call him up on it.
Yeah.
And I would say, no, I don't think that's right. I don't think this is right. And this is what you should do. Whether or not he listens to me is a different story.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't allow, certainly if he did anything that was homophobic or racist, not that I don't think he would.
Yeah.
But, I would call him up on that. There's a line.
I do think you hit the nail on the head there with the difference between Kavos and Keemstar. And I would much rather watch Kavos than I would Keemstar. It's a good. You've made some good points, and I take them on board. The only reason, again, I'm sure he will listen to this show, and I'm not. I owe nothing to that boy, but I'm just saying, I question the motives because I feel like that was once me, and I sit here and often question my own.
Yeah, well, the strange thing behind any channel like that, how yours used to be and how Kavos is now, is when I'm looking at it as someone who does not give a shit about YouTube. I don't really know much about YouTube. I look at it as someone who quite clearly puts himself on a pedestal above the people they're talking about. Like you definitely did.
Yeah.
Like you looked at your morality as better than Zoella's because she'd sell a £50 calendar to kids who would buy anything she has. So when you're slagging someone off, what you're really saying is, I'm better than you. And that's where my thing comes in. It's all right to think you're better than someone else as long as you've got a reason. Like we just did a whole podcast about psychics and mediums, and we quite clearly viewed ourselves as better in morality than them. Well, but I think you need to back it up.
You make a really good point. You do, and I know what you mean. But I would argue that I never did think I was better than her. As a person.
No, I mean in a specific situation. So you wouldn't do that exact thing she's done.
I would have been a better YouTuber for my audience.
Yeah.
I would have offered more to an audience than she did.
Yeah, as anyone should for what that was. But like that, all of these types of videos, the type Alex did and Will and E, all of them who did any form of commentary, the second you're commenting on another person in a negative light, you need to question yourself as well.
Moving back onto you, Kristian, I think you did a really good job of defending somebody who's on your roster who's some would say problematic. So I think that's a good trait to have in a talent manager because it.
Yeah, I would say I don't think I'm defending him as such.
Of course,
I believe in the points that I'm putting across.
Oh, for sure, sure. And to say defending was probably the wrong word because that seems like I'm attacking him, but I'm just questioning the whole motive behind it.